Hello guys, this is the fifth video, the final video in the series this week, where I'm analyzing the jobs, senior jobs, mostly senior related to Laravel. And out of 50 jobs, how many of them mention some technology, some keywords, and what can we conclude from that? So what we need to learn to become senior developers. I've divided those into 5 topics, 4 of them already published, and the links will be in the description below if you missed them. And today we're talking about server stuff. So on top of being a Laravel developer, how much you need to know, how much you are expected to know about how to deploy the code and how to scale the project with server tools. Probably the so-called elephant in the room here is AWS, Amazon ecosystem with a lot of tools. And here's one example of preferred skill. Amazon AWS with EC2 for servers, RDS for database, S3 for storage, Lambda for serverless stuff. And in general, the list of AWS ecosystem can be really huge. So how many of those jobs require anything related to AWS? Let's search AWS. It is mentioned in 24 job descriptions, or in fact 24 times. With duplicates, it will be less than that, like around 20. And let's take a look at a few examples of what tools around AWS are required. So for example, this list is quite cool. S3, SNS, SES, SQS, and Elastic Beanstalk. You can Google any of those separately and find out what they are if you don't know. Another example could be EC2, Elastic Cache, S3, CloudFront, Route 53. And another example is familiarity with server tools, Apache, Nginx, and cloud servers. And this is an interesting one. Under the hood of layer of AWS with their ecosystem, you still have the tools to create the server physically or virtually. And in those servers, you would probably have web servers, which are Apache or Nginx. So you could use the same Apache or Nginx and choose DigitalOcean as your provider instead of AWS. So for that, in many job descriptions, they require knowledge of servers, not AWS as a stack, but for example, Nginx is used 4 times here, Apache 5 times. Not that many, but it's beneficial to understand how those web servers work underneath powering your Laravel code. And also powering that code, often mentioned, is Linux. So being familiar with Linux operating system environment and being able to not just run commands, but understand how to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. That is a really important skill, and it is mentioned, Linux is mentioned in quite a few jobs, 10, especially if you are heavily involved in the deployment on live servers and troubleshooting. So some teams do have DevOps people or external teams to manage their servers, but in practice, it's a huge benefit if, as a developer, you can SSH into the machine and troubleshoot something or help a colleague to debug some issue. I've seen multiple times in my career, if there's a separate team for DevOps talking to developers, that communication isn't that positive because each of them kind of live in their own world without fully understanding other world, and there's a potential conflict there. At least it was an experience in my years of career. So working with Linux is beneficial, and even for local development. For me at least, I'm working on my MacBook, but it's still running Linux command in terminal. Of course, there are mostly the same commands in Windows terminals, but Linux environment is kind of a fundamental thing of most servers, and the more realistic is your local environment to real server, the fewer the chance that some bugs happening on production that are not happening on your local machine. And that is a benefit. Another thing mentioned quite often in those jobs is Docker. Being able to put your environment into container to share among your teammates or deploy to some testing or live servers. Also for scaling the projects, Docker becomes really invaluable in those situations. And also related to Docker, quite often they mentioned Kubernetes. In fact, it is mentioned in 5 job descriptions. So there's the whole separate world of scaling the projects, also related serverless stuff with Laravel Vapor. There are different tools for that, and for those it's more beneficial probably to have a separate team working on that. But if you have experience or knowledge or familiarity with that, it would be a benefit on your CV. So that's it in this series, 5 videos related to separate topics about jobs related to Laravel. What would you add for those of you who watched all 5 videos? What would you add that I haven't mentioned that is important while looking for a Laravel job, especially more senior positions? Let's discuss in the comments below. And if you want to learn some of those skills mentioned in those videos, I of course advise you to subscribe to yearly membership of my courses, or pick a specific course from the list, like automated testing for beginners, React, multi-tenancy, inertia, and a lot of other topics are here. And by subscribing to that, you're supporting my YouTube channel, where I can continue shooting free videos daily for you. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.